this is Stephanie Hansen, and you're listening to the Makers of Minnesota podcast, where we talk to cool people. Hello, and welcome to the Makers of Minnesota podcast, where we talk to cool people doing cool things. And I'm here with Peter Mock. Did I say it right, Peter?
You sure did, yes.
Oh, thank goodness. From Paddle North. And Paddle North is a company that I first became familiar with, I think about 3 years ago, right about when I started the podcast. I saw a stand-up paddle board, and I liked the design. I thought it was really cool. And then since then, you guys have expanded into inflatables and kayaks and inflatable docks. It's so cool to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, happy to be here.
When did you start Paddle North?
Yeah, we started actually back in 2014 in the summer, right around the same time that my first son was born, Tyler. So that was actually during my paternity leave, the 2 weeks off from my corporate job, is when the idea took some legs.
That's funny. Like you didn't have enough going on and you just needed to start a company.
Right. Well, I had some time to kind of get the idea out, is the way I'd say it. Yeah.
Did you grow up on lakes?
Yeah, kind of like every Minnesotan. I grew up near bodies of water and in the Shoreview area, kind of Lake Owasso, and there's a smaller lake there called Lake Wabasso. And yeah, we had a house growing up there, but the Boundary Waters every summer is kind of where the passion for the outdoors really started to grow for me.
Did you go canoeing, or would you go to a lake up there?
Yeah, canoe trips with portages. You know, I don't know exactly how old I was for the first one, but probably around the age of 10. And from 10 to 18, every summer, my cousins and uncles and dad and brother and sometimes even other family and friends would do probably 3 to 5 day excursions up to the Boundary Waters, which was a big formative time of my life for sure.
Yeah, my daughter is a Camp Wijiwagan alumni, so she would camp, and we have a cabin that is on a lake that is one of the last lakes before you portage into the Boundary Waters.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, so we're big lake people, and I think when I first saw your paddleboard, I actually saw some merchandise too that had your logo on it. I bought my daughter a hat.
Oh, nice.
The original Paddle North loon kind of on it. And She promptly went to college in Vermont and someone stole it. So she's always like, Mom, if you ever see a Paddle North hat like that one, just let me know. Because you guys really have embraced the lifestyle of lake living. And were you a big paddle boarder, or, you know, you've branched out into a couple of different products now, but tell me about the very original first product.
Yeah, the first product was definitely a paddleboard. And this concept and the idea for Paddle North started simply, and we've been trying to focus down what it is, but it's centered around paddleboards. Before I was really even super into it. I mean, I was into paddling, but paddleboarding was still pretty new to the scene. And I remember saying to my wife, just, you know, here's an idea, and if it worked, it would be fun to do every day. And I've had ideas before that. Some of them worked, and it wasn't necessarily super fun to keep doing every day, and some didn't work. But this one, we said, hey, you know, having an outdoor paddle-oriented business would just be something that's enjoyable. So the origin story, if you will, the cliff notes at least, is that it stemmed from that, where paddleboarding was kind of entering the scene. We saw a market opportunity in that it was mainly coastal brands kind of selling to the Midwest. And we believed, you know, the Midwest has a strong water culture that, you know, should be celebrated and could be defined further. And it's different. It's different in what the product actually needs. And it's different in the aesthetic, where it's not bright neon colors and, you know, dragon themed. It's quieter, that, you know, lets the elements and the environment speak louder than the board. And so Yeah, it just kind of stemmed off of that. Um, and the springboard, if you will, was when Matt, my business partner, he was within the first month, just very serendipitously, we reconnected, and it was in the concept stage of the business, and Matt was one of the first people that saw the concept and said, "Hey, I have a warehouse, I have trucks, I have the space." And Matt's a mechanical engineer. He had the expertise and more technically minded than me to pull off some of the concepts that I wanted to pull off. And when the two of us connected, it was just a year of grinding after that to get it off the ground.
It's very cool. And when you describe it like that, it makes sense to me because paddleboarding's kind of a weird thing. Like it's very solitary. You kind of either get it or you don't. It's good for your core. It's like very good for your health. But like I've had good paddleboarding experiences, and then sometimes I'm just like, God, this is so boring.
Sure. Yeah, it can definitely, the water, the board, who you're with, or what your mindset is, can all shape the experience for sure.
And I met some folks that have True North Base Camp. We did a podcast with them, and they
Yeah,
got me kind of excited about paddleboarding again because they were talking about you and your boards, but they were also talking about this mine that these mine pits up in the Cuyuna area and how
it's
like they're
beautiful.
beautiful and you can see 30 feet down. Like that appeals to me.
Yeah, early on we connected with them before I even knew what Cuyuna was, and it's just absolutely exploded since then. It's known as kind of like the mountain bike mecca, with all of the really great trails there. But really, kind of secondary developing is it's paddleboarding and paddling ability. The lakes are just stunning, and the water clarity is almost unbeatable in the state.
I like that you're getting into kayaks too, because we have this really big, ugly, blue, pedally Hobie Cat kayak that
Yeah,
I like it, but it's so ugly and it sits
sure.
out and it's like this huge plastic eyesore, and I would love to replace that at some point with something just a little more aesthetically pleasing. Um,
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, Hobie makes some really cool stuff as well. And yeah, our expansion into kayaks was a really exciting time for us because at that time, we had internal conversations and, do people just view us as a paddleboard company? Can we be more of a paddle company and take off the board and be, multifaceted in that extent? And we've even adapted even more so potentially with our utility docks and wake surf boards, where we're kind of like a water sport company, and just this year we're starting to define a little bit more of what is it that clarity, if not a tagline, but what is it we're trying to do, and it's boiling down for us is we're trying to get to people to enjoy outside and spend more time outside, and at the end of the day that's where our products are landing.
your utility docks are really cool too. We have a cabin on a lake that is a rock-based bottom. So, and it gets deep super fast. So these utility docks are really fun. And the big carpet, you've got a carpet that I just looked at sold out. So it must have been a big seller.
Yeah, yeah. Those are simple products that are extremely fun, and there's nothing complex about them besides you put it on the water and hang out. And for a lot of people, that's what a lot of people want to spend their weekend doing. And the utility dock is very um, not what people expect. Where the foam mats or lake float, people have been on, they've experienced it, kids have a blast on them. And that is a little bit more in the wheelhouse of, hey, I understand the concept, but the utility docks, when you go on it, it's something completely new. It feels like a floating dock in the middle of the water, where I grew up with those big kind of pontoon barrel
Yeah.
platforms that
Yep.
you scrape your leg on with the metal. It's rusty, it's hard to put in and take out every year, but it's super fun. And that's kind of where the utility dock is inspired from, where you can actually set up chairs and, hang out for the day. And it's your launch pad for kayaks or paddle boards or canoes, and just having fun on the water.
It's an amazing product. Yeah. And how you described with the old barrels and trying to like get the ladder to adhere every year and the rusty nail, that's sticking out. It's
and swimming underneath it and seeing fish and stuff. Yeah, no, that's childhood for sure.
That's hilarious. Who, like you mentioned Hobie Cat, what other like types of people are in your field, and are you the only person in the Midwest?
No, there's a few of us, and it's a really fun industry. I would say, just because I don't know, maybe there's an unwritten handshake or rule that to sell in this industry, you play fair and nice, and we're all kind of unified, and getting more people on the water is a good thing. So I've kind of become friends with others that do similar concepts, but there's, Sanborn Canoe that are making really cool canoes. There's
they do a great job.
Yeah, there's others that are making like solid core, like out of wood with no other materials, like shore boards. And so, there's others definitely getting people on the water here that are in the Midwest.
Is it so you only have like a limited season here, obviously, because, it's pretty much May to September. Yeah. So is that like a blessing in that during the off times you can work on other stuff and then it's just balls to the walls during the open water time?
Yeah, it's super unique. And early on, we got the question a lot of, do you just shut down in the winter? But it's very seasonal. And I mean, this year we were paddling out in November, but that's not every year for sure. Oh. But as far as the winter goes, they historically for us have been the product development times where we can really refine what we're doing. And we do a lot of events, not this year, obviously, but we do boat shows and home shows and RV shows. So like, anything at the Minneapolis Convention Center we're typically at this time of year, all of those are now canceled. So that's a little different winter for us. But
so let's talk
historically,
about that.
That's what we've done.
Because as a marketing avenue, I saw you at a million shows, boat shows, home shows, cabin shows. I think you were right. You were always there. And even like you guys had a space in Roseville Mall up at Rosedale.
Yeah, we're still there.
Is that a good avenue for you, like to come to where the people are versus waiting to develop online traffic?
Yeah, I mean, it's a harder avenue. It's a grind is the way we would describe it. Getting in front of people and putting in the work and having the right team to, provide the right experience consistently is something that we've worked really hard to perfect. But we love it. And that's the kind of people we hire and the kind of people on our team, and all of us are like chomping at the bit right now, a little bit sad that we're not, packing up and going to Chicago next weekend for the Chicago Boat Show. So there's an element that has been very fun thing that we do. It's kind of the spearhead of getting in front of people for us. Our products are unique, and yes, you can get an experience online, and that's definitely an emphasis that we've put a focus on this year, and online carried us through 2020, and it's great, and we'll certainly do that. It's a little funny, but I picture the online route, the more traditional, obvious route that a lot of other companies are going, where the grind through getting in front of people is a little bit more of the unique piece that we put in. And with our products, more than half of them, almost all of them, except for our bamboo fiberglass boards, are just air filled. And it's a really unique material, and it requires often people to touch and feel it to really understand the caliber of these, because when you see it or read about it online, you think, oh, it's inflatable. It's probably cheap and lasts a season or two. but that's just not the case. And if you feel and touch and stand and pick it up and plate it, actually pump it up at one of these events, it really changes the perspective that people have on our products.
I think working a trade show well is like the hardest thing in the world. And I'm good and extroverted but I mean, because everybody walks past your booth and they stare at you. They don't really want to talk to you, but they kind of do. So there's like a real art to inviting someone into your space in a way that's inviting, but not pushy and scary and weird. And I mean, it's exhausting and also really fun, but weird.
Yeah, for sure. It is exhausting. At the end of them, you're down for the count for the rest of the week until the next weekend. But it's talking to, I mean, in a normal year, it would be hundreds of thousands of interactions with people, where these are beyond just hellos. It's in-depth conversations, giving product demonstrations. And it's gone a long way for us. And, as soon as things return to normal, we'll keep going with those.
Do you have anything on your books right now?
Well, pretty much everything's canceled. We're still holding our breath that the state fairs, both Wisconsin and Minnesota, will happen. I think just as a state, we need that to happen. But
I know I just feel the exact same way. And I was just talking to someone else that they do a lot of business at the state fair, and we were just fingers crossed. And I don't know, like, when they have to make that determination, because people have to hire and get product. And if you're the corn,
tons of moving pieces,
you're growing the corn, or the fry guy, he's got to buy his potatoes. And so it's interesting to see and think about when we'll get back to that. And I really hope we will. I don't know. I saw something promising today that the new administration is going to just start vaccinating people faster, more, quicker, better. So that would be exciting.
Yeah. I mean, the vaccination and normalcy is what everybody's wanting to get back to. And we're not holding our breath that the state fair is going to go on, but we hope that it does. And, eventually one year it will, and we look forward to being back.
Yeah. And in the meantime, you're in a unique position because the whole outdoors and the environment, I mean, I'm a big outdoors person, and I've spent more time outdoors this year than ever.
That's a lot of people. And that's one of the good things, I think, from COVID, is that a lot of people have been able to slow down. Me, myself, I'm not traveling. So it's time outside. It's long walks at night. That's kind of it, getting on the water when you can.
Will you try to preserve that in your future? Like, even when things ramp up, do you think you'll have a different perspective?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will have to do that. Me, myself, I'm going to certainly try to hang on to a lot of that, where, you work hard and you have balance, and the time outside is one of those things that you don't want to sacrifice. And we're expecting a lot of people, the year's still, it's a new year, but it's still very much weird times. And so I think this year is going to be another big year for people wanting to and getting outside and enjoying their time outside. And I think those habits should hopefully stick around for people.
Yeah. And if you talk about, like you mentioned early on in the podcast, about how you got a love of the outdoors, I didn't have that growing up. I didn't really have a cabin until about 6th or 7th grade. And then it was sort of like I was already into, in the winter, I'd wear my leather jacket and my Nike high tops that were certainly not warm or the right type of footwear. And when winter came, I was just freezing all the time. And finally I got into college, and my boyfriend at the time was like, how about you get a coat? How about you get some gloves and some real boots? And I was like, oh, this outside is amazing. Once you can finally get a sense of, having the right gear and the right stuff. I was such a dope.
A lot of it is, preparing and dressing for the weather rather than the weather dressing or making up your plans. But
Yes.
yeah, once it is instilled, I've read some articles lately that say that, kids are spending less than half the time outside than, my generation did. And it's a weird thing. I think that's going to have ramifications if people don't start spending more quality time outside. That's a little bit slower pace, and it doesn't need to have a purpose or a lot of intention. It can just simply be time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you talking with me today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at some show. I will make sure to come by and wave.
Yeah, yeah,
Meantime,
sounds good.
you've got some cute outerwear on. You've got some cute shirts. I loved that bear button-up shirt. That was real cute, and some cute hats at paddlenorth.com. And you also have lots of things for cabins. So people should check that out if they've got cabins, because I think your products are great.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be on here, and really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, Peter.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.